Imagine your entire life plan, like, just falls apart.
Oh, yeah. Always a great start.
Right. You're sitting there totally devastated, your head is in your hands, and someone walks up to you, pats your shoulder, and says,
Oh, I know what's coming.
they say, everything happens for a reason.
Yep. There it is.
And depending on the exact day, depending on the literal second you hear it, that 5-word sentence either feels like this warm, life-saving hug,
And
or...
it makes you want to stare at them in complete, absolute, deafening silence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so polarizing. But anyway, welcome to the English Boost Podcast.
Thanks for having me back. It's a phrase that carries an immense amount of emotional weight.
Yeah, it really does.
And honestly, the person saying it rarely realizes just how volatile those 5 words can be until they, actually leave their mouth.
Which is the core mission of our exploration today. We're getting into this really fascinating source text that breaks down the emotional mechanics of this exact phrase. We're going to look at how we as humans process sudden pain, how we manage the terror of confusion, and how we eventually manage to construct meaning out of the wreckage.
Right, the rebuilding phase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because this is the English Boost Podcast, we aren't just talking psychology today.
No, we have some great language tools to cover, too.
Totally. Woven throughout this source text is some incredibly powerful English vocabulary at a B2 level. We're going to isolate those words and show you how to use them to articulate these complex, messy feelings for yourself.
To set the tone for this session, I want you to picture a very specific visual. Imagine you're in a quiet, cozy room, looking out through a rain-streaked window onto a bustling, maybe slightly gray cityscape.
Okay, I can see that. Very atmospheric.
Yeah, it's a bit melancholic, but there's also a profound sense of hope, a feeling of safety inside, looking out at the storm.
I like that.
That's the intellectual stage for us today. We aren't here to find a perfect, mathematically correct answer to why bad things happen to good people.
Right, because there isn't one.
Exactly. We're here to understand why you and I crave those answers so desperately when our lives suddenly just veer off course.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why do people immediately default to this phrase the moment something goes wrong?
It's almost an automatic reflex.
It is, like... a relationship ends abruptly, or a career opportunity vanishes into thin air, a financial plan just crumbles, and almost instantly someone swoops in with, well, everything happens for a reason.
Right.
Our source brings up this incredibly powerful image. It says that experiencing pain with no meaning feels like trying to carry water in your bare hands.
Oh, wow. That's a great metaphor.
Isn't it? You're holding on to something very heavy, very real, but you just can't keep it together. It's constantly slipping through your fingers, leaving you feeling empty and, well, exhausted.
That is brilliant, actually, because sitting in the psychological space of, I don't know why this is happening to me, is terrifying.
Yeah, it's the worst feeling.
The human brain is essentially a pattern recognition machine. When life feels entirely random, when it feels like this sequence of chaotic, unexplainable strikes.
Right, we just can't handle it.
Exactly. Our instinct is to frantically search for a pattern because, frankly, even a painful pattern, even believing you're being cosmically punished, feels safer to the human brain than accepting pure, unfeeling chaos.
But our source makes a really sharp contrast here, right? Between what we want pain to look like and what it actually is.
Oh, the social media aesthetic of pain.
Yes. There's this fake comfort aesthetic that dominates online. It's that hyper-curated, smile through the pain, bestie, it's just destiny redirecting you vibe.
Right, which sounds nice for about 2 seconds.
Exactly, until you realize that real pain is usually sitting on the floor in sweatpants with messy hair and absolutely no answers.
Definitely.
Real pain definitely did not prepare a nicely formatted inspirational speech for the occasion.
Yeah.
It's just there, being difficult.
And that stark contrast between the neat little cliche and the messy reality, well, it brings us from the intent of the phrase to the execution of it.
Okay.
Which begs the question, if the phrase is fundamentally meant to provide structure to that person crying on the floor, why does it so frequently cause a massive involuntary eye roll?
But wait, I've had moments where someone said this to me and it actually did help.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I lost a job once and a friend said, everything happens for a reason. And in that specific instance, it gave me a life raft. It made me feel like the universe had my back when I was drowning.
Interesting.
So why are we treating the phrase like it's some kind of emotional villain?
Well, what's fascinating here is that it all comes down to nuance and timing.
Timing, yeah, that makes sense.
Saying Everything happens for a reason to someone months or years after an event, or when they've already started looking for the silver lining themselves. That might spark genuine relief. They might nod and agree with you.
Because they're ready for it.
Exactly. But saying it while someone is still actively in shock, that skips entirely past their current reality.
Right.
In the immediate aftermath of a loss, people do not need a philosophical lesson about the grand design of the universe. They just need to feel seen. They need someone to sit with them in the mess, without rushing to sanitize it.
I see. We want pain to become neat too quickly. We want to tidy up the uncomfortable feelings.
You really do.
The source uses this incredible comparison, actually. We want healing to act like a corporate school presentation. We want a PowerPoint recovery.
Oh, the PowerPoint recovery, yes.
Slide 1, severe heartbreak. Slide 2, immense personal growth. Slide 3, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
If only it were that easy.
Right. But emotional reality doesn't come with bullet points or a laser pointer. Healing is agonizingly slow. Feelings don't neatly transition to the next slide. They just drag out.
Precisely. And honestly, the rush to find a neat reason is often more about the comfort of the person saying the phrase than the person actually experiencing the pain.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because sitting with someone else's pain is awkward.
It's extremely uncomfortable, so we throw a shiny phrase at them to relieve the tension in the room. But as you mentioned, the feelings don't vanish just because someone quoted a cliche at them. And since that healing process is so slow, we have to ask what exactly the mind is doing during that heavy time. Let's look at a specific type of pain. The text zeroes in on rejection and loss.
Because in the moment, a rejection never feels like some grand cosmic redirection. It just feels like a personal attack.
Very personal.
Our source notes that close doors right in your face are rude, very rude, deeply rude.
I love that phrasing.
It's so true, though. It feels like the universe just slammed a heavy wooden door directly onto your fingers.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the text offers one of its most profound psychological insights right here. When a plan breaks or a door is slammed in your face, you aren't just grieving the loss of the tangible thing itself.
What else are you grieving?
You're grieving the imagined future. You are mourning the entire version of your life that you had already meticulously built in your head.
Oh, man. That hits so close to home.
Right.
It's never just that you didn't get the apartment you applied for. It's that you had already mentally placed your sofa against the far wall. You had already imagined what your Sunday mornings were going to look like drinking coffee by that specific window.
Exactly.
You lose the entire future you inhabited in your mind.
You're mourning a ghost. You're mourning a timeline that will now never exist. And this is exactly why looking back on these events years later feels so incredibly complex.
Because you remember what you lost.
Yeah, it still hurts to remember the sting of the rejection. You remember the slammed door. But from the vantage point of the future, you can finally see what the loss protected you from, or what it eventually forced you to do instead.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because once the pain isn't the only thing taking up all the oxygen in the room, the question you ask yourself shifts.
How so?
You slowly stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you start asking, what did this change in me?
Ah, yes.
And the source highlights a brilliant shift in perspective here. The idea that meaning isn't just sitting there on the ground waiting to be found like a lost set of keys.
Right. It contrasts two very different ideas about how you operate in the world. The phrase, everything happens for a reason, implies that life already wrote the lesson for you in advance. As the source jokes, it paints this rather annoying image of a slightly controlling, highly organized universe that walks up to you and hands in a written report of your life's meaning before you've even had time to dry your tears.
Yeah, like, good morning, here is your syllabus for today's trauma. Please read chapters 1 through 3 by Friday.
Exactly. It completely robs you of your agency. It makes you a passive participant in your own life.
I totally see that.
But the real human power lies in the alternative. Real life is slower, and it is messier. We don't find meaning. We quietly, painstakingly build it later from the raw materials of what the pain taught us.
Build it? I love that.
And that framing changes everything. You aren't just a character in a pre-written story. You are the architect of your own meaning.
You are the architect. That imagery is fantastic. But wait, if we build meaning from our pain, if we construct something highly valuable out of the wreckage, are we saying the pain itself was a good thing?
Uh-oh.
Is trauma actually just a really aggressive life hack for personal growth?
This raises an important question, and it is a massive trap a lot of people fall into. We have to be incredibly careful about the danger of romanticizing pain.
Right.
Pain is not automatically noble just because it changed you. The source makes a crucial distinction here. The growth that follows a painful event might be profound, it might be beautiful, but the wound was still just a wound.
It still hurt.
Exactly. Sometimes pain isn't a wise old teacher in a disguise. Sometimes a flat tire is just a flat tire. It's just rude.
So what does this all mean for us? Where do we land? If we aren't supposed to pretend the pain was a beautiful, shiny gift, but we also don't want to just be bitter and angry forever, what do we actually do?
We aim for healthy acceptance. And healthy acceptance is not toxic positivity. It is not forcing yourself to say, I'm so glad this terrible thing happened to me.
Thank goodness, because that always feels like a lie.
It usually is. Healthy acceptance is simply coming to terms with the reality of the timeline you are in. It is standing there and saying, it happened, it changed me, and now I want to live from here.
I want to live from here. That is such a grounded, realistic way to look at it. It takes the immense pressure off.
It really does.
Notice how we're talking about framing our experiences. The tools we use to frame these stories, to become the architects of our meaning, are words.
And this brings us to the vocabulary.
Yes. To truly grasp and communicate these complex emotional shifts, our source provided a specific set of English vocabulary at the B2 level. These aren't just definitions, they're tools for your toolkit. Let's actually look at them in action.
Let's do it.
Imagine a scenario. Say we have a friend. Let's call her Maya. She's worked at a startup for 5 years, given it everything, and suddenly the company goes under. She's laid off with zero warning.
Okay, tough situation. In the exact moment she gets that news, she is shattered. Her perception of the situation is pure devastation and betrayal.
Perception.
Yeah, now why use perception here instead of just saying her view? Because perception implies a psychological lens. It's not just what she sees, it's how her brain is actively interpreting the data of the layoff, filtering it through fear, shock, and sudden insecurity. Her perception paints the entire world as hostile.
That makes a lot of sense. But let's fast forward. Months later, as she's processing it, she looks back at the company's behavior. She realizes they were cutting budgets for a year, people were leaving quietly. She realizes the failure was actually inevitable.
Inevitable, that's a strong word.
Right. Why use inevitable instead of certain? Because inevitable carries the weight of destiny. It means it was completely unavoidable. It was bound to happen eventually, regardless of how hard she worked.
And that realization helps to shed light on her confusing feelings.
Yeah.
Notice the mechanics of that idiom. We don't just say the realization explains it. To shed light on evokes a very specific image.
Like a literal light.
Exactly. Imagine walking into a dark, scary room where you keep stubbing your toe. Shedding light is like finally turning on a flashlight and seeing the furniture. The room is the same, but the illumination makes it navigable.
I love the imagery behind that. But even with that flashlight on, Maya still has lingering sadness. I think this word is so much better than just saying she's still sad.
Lingering.
Lingering feels like the smell of smoke in a room long after a fire has been put out. It hangs around in the air. The fire is gone, but the emotional loop is unresolved.
Unresolved, right.
She hasn't wrapped her feelings up with a neat bow, and that's the reality of it.
Exactly. And the people around Maya need to understand the nuance of the situation. There are subtle shades of gray here.
Nuance is so important.
It is. If a well-meaning friend tells her everything happens for a reason on day one, that lacks nuance. It misses the delicate, almost microscopic emotional timing required for real comfort. Nuance is the difference between a phrase being a warm hug or an insult.
2 years later, Maya lands a job she absolutely adores. She has a great team, great pay. Now, looking back at the startup, failing is bittersweet.
Bittersweet, that's a classic one.
I always think of this word like eating incredibly dark chocolate. It contains bitterness. The visceral memory of the sudden rejection and fear mixed directly with sweetness. The deep gratitude for where the rejection forced her to go. You cannot separate the happy and sad feelings. They exist simultaneously.
And because she was able to hold both of those feelings, she was able to draw meaning from the event.
Draw meaning.
Notice the verb draw here. She didn't find the meaning sitting under a rock. To draw meaning is to actively extract value. You pull the lesson out of the wreckage yourself. It is an active construction process.
Which is exactly what makes the whole ordeal transformative. It profoundly altered her professional trajectory and her resilience. But remember our warning. The layoff itself wasn't a beautiful gift. It was just a rude closed door. What she did afterward was the transformation. Ultimately, she had to come to terms with what happened. Instead of fighting the past, she slowly accepted the weight of it, made peace with it, and walked forward.
That is exactly how these words function. Using terms like perception, inevitable, lingering, and transformative allows you to elevate your English far beyond just describing what mechanically happened to you.
Right, it gives it depth.
They give you the power to articulate exactly how it felt, the imagery of the emotional space, and why it changed you.
So as we wrap up today's exploration on the English Boost podcast, let's take a step back. Navigating life's unexpected turns, those rude closed doors and sudden losses, well, it isn't about finding perfect, shiny answers immediately.
No, it really isn't.
You do not need a 3-slide PowerPoint presentation to justify your pain. Healing is about having the patience to sit with the mess. It's about allowing the heavy feelings to linger if they need to, without forcing a cliché over them.
Beautifully said.
And most importantly, it's about having the vocabulary to eventually, quietly articulate your own growth when you are ready.
And I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to ponder today, building on everything we've discussed from the text.
Okay, let's hear it.
If we truly construct our own meaning, rather than just discovering a pre-written destiny handed down by a controlling universe, then the narrative of your past is actually entirely in your hands right now.
Oh, wow.
Think about that. What unresolved chapter in your life are you currently rewriting simply by changing the vocabulary you use to describe it?
The words you choose actually build the meaning. That is incredibly powerful. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this discussion. Remember to take care of your English and take care of your heart. We'll catch you on the next session of the English Boost podcast.